When I learned my parents gave the family business to my sister, I stopped working 80-hour weeks for free. A week later, Dad called, panicked about losing our biggest client. I just said, let Sarah handle it. She's the heir, right? I found out my parents transferred the family business to my sister, so I stopped working 80-hour weeks for no pay. A week later, Dad called, our biggest client is about to cancel. No apology, no acknowledgement. I coldly replied, let Sarah handle it. She's the heir, after all. The low rhythmic hum of the servers in the back office at Evergreen Solutions had been the constant soundtrack to my adult life. For 10 years, that hum had been more than just background noise. It was the pulse of my existence, a lullaby to the relentless 80-hour work weeks I poured into the family business. I was Michael, 32, and my identity was so deeply intertwined with Evergreen, the company my grandfather had founded, that I barely knew where I ended and it began. My hands calloused not from physical labor, but from endless hours gripping a mouse and typing furiously, often achy with a dull, persistent throb. There were permanent shadows under my eyes, a testament to the countless late nights spent troubleshooting glitches, perfecting presentations, and closing deals that kept the lights on and the profits flowing. I sacrificed so much. Vacations were a foreign concept. My social life a distant memory. Serious relationships withered on the vine, choked by the constant demands of the business. I often ate cold pizza at my desk, the grease staining my fingertips, all for a perceived greater good, the family's future, my parents' pride, and a legacy I truly believed was partially mine. I envisioned a day when my name, alongside theirs, would be etched into the company's history, a reward for my unwavering devotion. Looking back, that was my biggest blind spot, my most vulnerable point, a deep-seated, almost desperate need for their validation. I clung to the belief that my hard work and loyalty would eventually be seen, acknowledged, and most importantly, rewarded. I wanted to make them proud, to prove I was worthy of the trust they seemed to place in me. My younger sister Sarah was a stark, almost painful contrast to my relentless drive. While I was clocking in before dawn, she'd drift in around noon, sometimes later. Her designer handbag slung casually over her shoulder. She worked part-time, if you could even call it that, often disappearing for extended sabbaticals that stretched into weeks, sometimes months, always returning with a new tan and a fresh set of expensive stories. She frequently missed crucial client meetings, her excuses flimsy and often outright bizarre, a sudden migraine, a last-minute spa appointment, a creative block. Yet, she was always praised, especially for her superficial achievements, her impeccable fashion sense, her ability to charm a room with a dazzling, if shallow, smile. Oh, Sarah just has such a knack for people, my mother would coo, while I was left to clean up the fallout from a missed deadline. Sarah's latest Instagram post, a perfectly filtered image of her lounging on a white sand beach in Bali, captioned, living my best life #blessed was a bitter pill I swallowed daily. I knew even then that the best life was funded by what I now realize were inflated marketing expenses from Evergreen. Expenses that always seemed to mysteriously appear on the books after one of her sabbaticals. I remember one Thanksgiving, vivid as yesterday, the memory still sharp enough to cut. The tantalizing aroma of roasted turkey and pumpkin pie was a distant, mocking memory. I was hunched over my laptop in a desolate office, the only light coming from my screen, desperately trying to secure Global Corp, a pivotal client that would redefine Evergreen's reach and secure our future for years. My parents had called me, their voices dripping with saccharine concern. Oh, Michael, you're so dependable. Sarah's having such a lovely time on her trip. We can't disturb her. Dependable? Yes. Acknowledged for the true cost of that dependability? Never. I was the workhorse, Sarah, the pampered show pony. And I foolishly accepted my role, believing it would eventually lead to my rightful place. The discovery came on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday, a day filled with the usual frantic pace. My shoulders ached, my eyes burned, and the persistent metallic taste of too much coffee coated my tongue. I was searching for an old client contract, a file from a project I'd single-handedly managed years ago, when I stumbled upon a rarely used company drive. My finger, guided by an almost imperceptible tremor of curiosity, clicked on a folder labeled private. My breath hitched. Inside, an email marked confidential succession plan blinked back at me, its stark white text against the dark screen a chilling beacon. The words on the screen blurred, then snapped into sickening, horrifying focus, full ownership transferred to Sarah upon retirement. My chest tightened, a cold knot forming in my stomach that tasted like bile. It felt as if someone had scooped out my insides and replaced them with ice, leaving a hollow, aching void. The air left my lungs, replaced by a cold, suffocating dread that stole my breath. My fingers trembled so violently I almost dropped my phone, the glowing screen reflecting my pale, horrified face. I clicked through the attached documents. Each page a fresh stab, a cruel confirmation. Every sacrifice, every late night, every penny I'd poured back into the business flashed before my eyes in a dizzying, sickening montage. Was it all for nothing? Was I just a disposable asset, a tool to be used and discarded? I printed the documents, the software of the printer a cruel mockery of my internal scream. The paper felt flimsy, insubstantial, yet it held the weight of my shattered world. My hands shook so uncontrollably that the pages rustled like dry leaves in a winter wind. I folded them carefully, as if handling a fragile, ancient map to a forgotten treasure, and hid them in a locked drawer in my desk, a secret I wasn't yet ready to face. A truth too painful to immediately acknowledge. That night, lying in bed, the silence of my apartment was deafening, amplified by the frantic buzzing in my ears. The ceiling felt oppressive, pressing down on me, threatening to crush me. I replayed my father's frequent, almost casual remark in my head, "You're so talented, Michael. You'll always land on your feet." It was his go-to phrase, delivered with a dismissive wave of the hand whenever I mentioned my workload or future. Now, it felt like a cruel, calculated dismissal of my worth, a subtle way of telling me I was expendable, that my value was only in my ability to generate profit, not in my intrinsic worth as their son. Was I just a replaceable cog in their carefully constructed facade? This was my first true bottom moment, the bitter realization that the family dream I had so fiercely believed in was for them merely a transaction, a means to an end. The taste of betrayal was accurate on my tongue. A constant reminder of the bitter truth. The betrayal nodded at me. A constant sickening throb behind my eyes. A dull ache that spread through my chest and settled in my bones. I spent days and days going through the motions at Evergreen. My movement stiff, my smile a brittle, forced thing. The familiar scent of stale coffee and printer toner in the office, once comforting, now felt like the smell of a tomb, a suffocating enclosure. I knew I had to confront them, to rip off the mask and see the raw, ugly truth beneath. The suspense was killing me. A slow, agonizing suffocation. I chose a seemingly normal Sunday family dinner. The aroma of my mother's signature pot roast, usually a comforting embrace that promised warmth and belonging, now felt cloying, a suffocating sweetness that made my stomach churn. The dining room, adorned with framed family photos, my graduation, Sarah's first ballet recital, a cheesy beach vacation where we all wore matching Hawaiian shirts, suddenly felt foreign, alien. Every smiling face on the wall felt like an accusation. A silent mockery of the truth. I now held a testament to a fabricated reality. I waited until the dessert plates were cleared. The last remnants of apple pie, a sweet lie on the table. A final deceptive flourish. My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird desperate to escape its cage. Taking a deep, shuddering breath that did little to calm my racing pulse, I pulled the printed succession documents from my worn leather messenger bag and laid them gently on the polished oak. They rustled softly, a sound that seemed to shadow the polite quiet of the room, echoing with the weight of unspoken truths. My parents' faces, usually so composed, so carefully curated for public consumption, contorted with shock. Then, quickly, a flicker of something cold, something almost reptilian, replaced it, defensiveness. A wall came up, impenetrable and chilling. "What is this, Michael?" my mother asked, her voice unnervingly calm, almost saccharine, though her eyes darted nervously from the incriminating papers to my face, betraying her inner turmoil. "It's the succession plan," I replied, my voice steadier than I expected, a surprising calm settling over me. "The one that gives Sarah full ownership of Evergreen, cutting me out completely." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. My father cleared his throat, a nervous, guttural sound. Avoiding my gaze, he picked at a stray crumb on the tablecloth. "Don't be dramatic, Michael. It's just business, Sarah." "Well, Sarah needs financial stability more than you do. She's not as resourceful." He finally met my eyes. His own filled with a practiced blend of concern and patronization, a familiar look that always made my skin crawl. "You have the talent to succeed anywhere, Michael. We always knew you'd be fine on your own." That was it. Their signature gaslighting phrase, delivered with the usual dismissive wave of the hand. A verbal pat on the head implying my concerns were trivial, even selfish. It was a subtle twist of the knife designed to make me question my own sanity, my own worth. Sarah, ever nonchalant, shrugged, fiddling with a loose thread on her expensive silk blouse. "Oh, that old thing. What's the big deal, Mikey? You're so ambitious. You'll start something even bigger." Her casual use of my childhood nickname, Mikey, usually reserved for moments of warmth, now felt like a deliberate, cutting insult, a mockery of our shared past. Her eyes held a flicker of triumph. I couldn't miss the glint of cruel satisfaction. "Is this what family means to you?" I whispered, my voice cracking on the last word. The question was a desperate plea into a void that offered no comfort, no solace. The question hung heavy in the strange silence, echoing off the walls of the once loving home. I felt a profound aching emptiness, the betrayal of physical weight in my chest, a crushing burden that threatened to suffocate me. It wasn't just the business. It was the decade of my life. The unwavering belief in them shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The air in the room grew thick, suffocating, laden with unspoken truths and bitter resentments. That night, lying awake in my apartment, the silence was deafening, amplified by the frantic buzzing in my ears. The familiar sounds of the city outside, a distant siren, the rumble of traffic, seemed muffled, as if the world was holding its breath with me. The anger was a burning coal in my stomach, a searing inferno. But beneath it, a deep, icy resolve had begun to form. I couldn't be exploited anymore. My decision to leave wasn't just an impulsive act of rage. It was a cold, calculated move to protect myself, and, in turn, expose their true nature. The weight of those 80-hour weeks without recognition finally crushed the last vestiges of my hope for their approval, leaving behind a hardened core of determination. I began my quiet preparations each night. After hours, I'd meticulously back up all my personal project files, every client communication log detailing my solo efforts on major accounts like Global Corporation, and any intellectual property I'd solely developed. I wasn't stealing company data. I was simply gathering undeniable evidence of my indispensable contributions, the proof of my labor, my dedication, my very existence within that company. My gut told me I would need it, that the fight was far from over. The act felt almost surgical, precise, devoid of emotion, even as my heart ached with the weight of my actions. It felt like betraying my own blood. Yet, I knew they had betrayed me first, far more deeply. I also reached out to Robert Maxwell, my trusted former mentor at Evergreen, a man who had always been a quiet, steady presence. Robert, an old family friend, had often expressed subtle disapproval of my parents' blatant favoritism, though he never directly interfered. Now, he offered subtle encouragement, his voice low and sympathetic. "Michael," he'd said, his words a balm to my raw nerves, "sometimes the hardest boundaries to draw are the ones within your own family, but they're also the most vital. You deserve more than what they've given you." He was the objective outsider I desperately needed, a beacon of sanity in my spiraling world. On a Monday morning, a week after the dinner, I sent my resignation email. It was short, concise, and chillingly formal, effective immediately. "I am resigning from my position at Evergreen Solutions due to a fundamental breach of trust and a necessary restructuring of personal priorities." I copied no one else, letting the news ripple through the company on its own, a quiet bomb detonating in the heart of their carefully constructed illusion. The immediate aftermath was a maelstrom. My phone vibrated nonstop with panicked calls and texts from my parents, first demanding, then pleading, then threatening. "You're abandoning your family, Michael. After everything we've done for you, this is a betrayal." This was their other signature manipulation phrase, a constant reminder of some imagined debt I owed them. A debt they believed was endless. My voice, however, remained calm, firm, and utterly devoid of emotion. "I'm protecting myself, Mom. You've made your choices, and now I'm making mine." The words felt heavy but liberating, a declaration of independence. A new steely resolve had replaced the ache in my chest. The chaos at Evergreen Solutions was immediate and profound. My former colleagues, frantic, called about stalled projects and unanswered client queries. Sarah, completely overwhelmed, tried to delegate tasks she barely understood. Her voice was shrill with panic, exposing her utter incompetence for all to see. The company, once a well-oiled machine under my guidance, was now a sinking ship. The week after my departure, Evergreen Solutions descended into utter chaos. The once self-sufficient office, which I had helped streamline and modernize with countless hours of unpaid labor, was now a maelstrom of confusion. Phone calls from panicked employees became a constant background noise to my newfound quiet, a distant, irritating hum. Rumors of my sudden, unexplained exit spread like wildfire through the industry, turning heads and raising eyebrows. My former colleagues, many of whom I considered friends, were caught in the crossfire, their loyalty torn between the family and the man who had truly kept the company afloat. Then the call came. It was my father, his voice raw with fear, cracking with an edge of desperation I had never heard before. "Michael, our biggest client, Global Corporation, is threatening to cancel. They say no one else understands their account. You have to come back. We're losing everything. You're ruining us." The fear in his voice was palpable, a desperate plea, but still no apology. No acknowledgement of the betrayal, the lies, the years of exploitation. Just panic for his own financial well-being, the company's bottom line. No apology, no acknowledgement. The words were a bitter echo of the past, a confirmation that their priorities remained unchanged. My voice, however, remained cold, calm, and utterly detached. "Let Sarah handle it, Dad. She's the heir, after all." The silence on the other end was deafening, a thick, uncomfortable void. It tasted like ashen victory. A perverse satisfaction tinged with the profound sadness of a family truly lost. A bond irrevocably broken. The power dynamic had shifted completely. And for the first time in my life, I held the cards, the true leverage. A few days later, a subtle but critical turn of events occurred, a twist of fate that felt almost divinely orchestrated. I was finally getting around to clearing out some old boxes from my childhood home, retrieving a few sentimental items I'd left behind, my dusty baseball glove, a worn copy of my favorite childhood book, a collection of faded photographs. Tucked away in a seldom-used drawer in my father's old desk, which my grandfather had used before him, I found a worn leather-bound journal. It was my late grandfather's, a man known for his quiet wisdom, unwavering integrity, and meticulous nature. He had been the original founder of Evergreen Solutions, a man who believed in fairness above all else. The scent of old paper and faint pipe tobacco clung to the brittle pages, a comforting aroma that brought a wave of bittersweet nostalgia. Inside, amidst nostalgic entries about family holidays and fishing trips, I found a series of detailed notes about the company's early days, his vision for its future, and his unwavering commitment to ethical business practices. And then there it was, an original pre-incorporation partnership agreement, tucked neatly between two brittle pages, almost hidden from plain sight. It predated my parents' current ownership structure and seemed almost an afterthought, a relic from a different era. A handwritten note next to a specific, almost archaic clause read, "To ensure fair play for all who truly build this dream, no one should be left behind." The clause, written in elegant looping script, stated that if the company ownership was ever transferred without the documented consent and a fair compensation agreement for any primary contributing partner, a term my grandfather had clearly defined, listing me by name due to my early unpaid contributions to the nascent family business, even before I was a teenager when I would spend summers filing and organizing, the agreement could be legally challenged. This could potentially trigger a forced sale or place the company in a neutral trust for a period. This was his foresight, a safety net against the very kind of manipulation I was experiencing, a silent guardian from beyond the grave. This discovery wasn't just about money. It was about his unwavering belief in fairness, his quiet, posthumous acknowledgement of my fundamental worth, something my parents had consistently denied me. It felt like a warm hand on my shoulder, a whisper of encouragement from a man who truly understood. Armed with this undeniable evidence, I immediately contacted a sharp, empathetic lawyer specializing in corporate and family law, recommended by Robert. His name was Mr. Harrison, a man with kind eyes and a steel-trap mind. He listened without judgment. I told Robert later, his eyes reflecting a quiet understanding of betrayal, not just of a business, but of a soul. Mr. Harrison's initial assessment was clear. The clause was valid, and my case was strong, especially bolstered by my meticulous records of contributions and the global corporation's imminent departure, which clearly demonstrated Sarah's utter incompetence. This isn't just a claim, Michael, he'd said. This is justice. I initiated legal proceedings, a formal challenge to the succession plan and a significant claim for past underpaid wages dating back to my first day. The legal documents were served swiftly, creating another wave of panic within my parents' camp, a new tremor in their carefully constructed world. Their reaction was predictable and ugly: public outrage, aggressive social media campaigns against me, painting me as a greedy, ungrateful son who was destroying his family's legacy. They posted old photos of me as a child, juxtaposed with scathing captions about betrayal and ingratitude, counter threats of lawsuits, baseless accusations of corporate espionage, and thinly veiled threats of drowning me. They desperately attempted to rally extended family and mutual friends against me. Their social mask, now stretched thin, revealed the desperate, manipulative faces beneath. Their facade, meticulously maintained for decades, was cracking under the pressure, exposing the rot within. The whispers in the community grew louder, a chorus of judgment. During the discovery process, Mr. Harrison, with his calm and systematic approach, uncovered even more damning evidence. Sarah's part-time salary, it turned out, was astronomically inflated, far beyond any reasonable market value for her minimal contribution. Detailed expense reports buried deep in the company's accounting software revealed a shocking trail of lavish personal purchases, luxury handbags from Fifth Avenue, high-end electronics, and exotic vacations to places like the Maldives and the Swiss Alps, all meticulously disguised as client entertainment or marketing expenses. This was her signature behavior laid bare, a life lived entirely for outward appearances, financed by the very company I had bled for. But even more devastating was the series of internal emails between Sarah and our parents. Dating back years, they revealed Sarah had actively manipulated our parents to exclude me. She played on their insecurities about my growing power and influence within the company, whispering poison into their ears. She fabricated stories of my disloyalty, exaggerating my perceived independence and suggesting I was too ambitious and would leave anyway, so it was safer to secure her future first. He's a threat. Mom, Dad, one email read. He'll take over everything. I'm the one who truly understands the brand, the image. She played them like a fiddle. Mr. Harrison stated flatly, his voice grim, her words a poisoned lullaby in their ears. She even suggested that keeping me out of the ownership would motivate me to work harder to earn their approval, a twisted form of psychological warfare. The climax arrived during a tense final mediation session just before a full-blown court trial. Mr. Harrison insisted on bringing in a select group of family members who had remained neutral, along with Evergreen's oldest, most respected clients, including a skeptical representative from Global Corporation, who was still considering their options. The room was thick with unspoken tension, the air heavy with the scent of old paper and nervous anticipation. The fluorescent lights hummed, casting a harsh, unforgiving glow on everyone's faces. Mr. Harrison, in his calm, methodical manner, laid out the evidence. He projected the incriminating emails onto a large screen, pixel by pixel, revealing Sarah's manipulative conversations, her insidious whispers. Then came the financial discrepancies, transaction by transaction, the numbers a stark indictment of her greed and their complicity. The room gasped. Sarah's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Her face, usually so composed, so perfectly made up, contorted into a mask of pure fury and desperation. She erupted in a desperate, tearful tirade, her voice shrill, echoing off the polished walls. He always tried to make me look bad. He never appreciated me. I deserve this. Her outburst, a confession delivered in a desperate attempt to defend herself, was in front of everyone. The Global Corp representative, observing the chaotic scene, quietly shook their head, a clear sign their decision was made. The social mask of my family, once so impenetrable, had finally completely shattered, revealing the ugly truth beneath. The court's decision was swift and decisive. Based on the strength of my grandfather's clause and the irrefutable evidence Mr. Harrison presented, the meticulous records of my contributions, the damning emails, the blatant financial misdeeds, the judge ruled emphatically in my favor. My decade of meticulously documented contributions was not only recognized but legally affirmed. A public declaration of my worth. It wasn't just a win. It was a profound vindication, a moment where justice, cold and impartial, finally prevailed. The outcome for Evergreen Solutions was devastating but utterly unavoidable. The succession plan was irrevocably overturned. The company, deemed unstable, mismanaged, and now thoroughly embroiled in internal family strife, was forced into an immediate sale to a rival, larger corporation, Horizon Dynamics. My parents, who had clung to the illusion of control, lost almost everything they had meticulously built on the back of my labor. Their prized legacy, their very identity, was gone forever, sold off piece by painful piece. The financial and reputational fallout for them was immense. They faced severe financial losses, their assets frozen, their carefully constructed retirement plans evaporating like mist in the morning sun. Publicly, they were disgraced. The social mask they had worn for so long, the one that had fooled so many, was in tatters, replaced by public scorn and whispers. Friends and business associates who had once admired their successful family and their seemingly idyllic life now saw them for what they truly were: manipulative, deceitful, and ultimately self-serving. The phone calls stopped. Invitations to community events dried up. They became pariahs in the very circles they had so desperately tried to impress. Sarah, too, faced the full brunt of her actions. She narrowly avoided criminal charges for embezzlement, a testament to Mr. Harrison's strategic negotiation, but the civil penalties were crushing. Bankruptcy loomed, a dark cloud over her once glamorous life and her carefully curated social media image. Once her pride and joy, her shield against reality collapsed, leaving her isolated and exposed. The lavish life she had flaunted was revealed as a lie. And now everyone knew it. The likes and comments on her posts dwindled to nothing, replaced by silence and judgment. And Global Corp? They officially canceled their contract with Evergreen Solutions. The email, brief and to the point, cited irreconcilable differences and lack of trust. It was a final, painful testament to my parents' misplaced priorities, valuing appearances and favoritism over integrity and true talent. The company, once a symbol of their success, was now a monument to their failure. In the aftermath, a profound quiet settled over my life. The frantic energy that had defined me for so long, the constant buzzing of phone calls and emails, began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm I hadn't known was possible. The persistent ache in my shoulders eased. The shadows under my eyes began to fade. The metallic taste of stress on my tongue was replaced by the simple, clean taste of water. I used my settlement, a substantial sum that, for the first time, truly reflected my decade of labor and the real value of my contributions, to launch my own boutique consulting firm, Anchorpoint Strategies. I built it from the ground up on principles of absolute transparency, fair compensation, and a genuine valuing of talent, everything my family's business had lacked. My office, though smaller, felt infinitely larger, filled with the light of my own vision. Robert, my former mentor, became my first official advisor. His steady wisdom and quiet encouragement were a comforting presence. He saw the fire in my eyes, the passion for ethical business. Several former colleagues, impressed by my integrity and vindicated by the court's decision, reached out, eager to join me. My reputation, once subtly tarnished by my family's slanders, now shone brighter than ever, built on a foundation of honesty and competence. We secured new clients, not through manipulation or false promises, but through genuine results and trust. I found a profound sense of peace and freedom I hadn't known was possible. The constant pressure, the insidious emotional manipulation, the endless striving for approval that never came, it was all gone. The house I'd grown up in, with its walls that seemed to echo with accusations and unspoken expectations, faded into a distant memory, a ghost of a past I no longer inhabited. My new apartment, small but mine, felt like a sanctuary. A true anchor in a sea of my own making. A place where I could finally breathe freely. I started building a new kind of family, not by blood, but by choice. Supportive friends who celebrated my successes and stood by me through the difficult emotions that still surfaced. They were the ones who truly listened, who saw me, not the role I played. I even started a new, healthy romantic relationship, one built on mutual respect and genuine connection. A stark contrast to the transactional nature of my past family life. It was a revelation, discovering what true unconditional support felt like. The scars of the past, however, remained. There were still moments, often late at night, when the memory of their betrayal would resurface, a sharp pang in my chest, a phantom limb of pain. The sting of their words, the crushing weight of their deceit would sometimes creep back into my thoughts. But the pain no longer consumed me. It was a scar, a reminder of what I had survived, a testament to my resilience. But it no longer defined me. The barbed wire around my lungs had finally loosened. I could breathe again, deeply, fully, truly. Months later, I had a chance encounter with my parents and Sarah at a community charity event, an annual gala they once dominated. They looked aged, diminished, their once impeccable facades now visibly strained, their smiles brittle and forced. They were bitter, resentful, their eyes holding a desperate, hollow look, but still unable to offer a sincere apology. My mother approached me, her face etched with a familiar plea for sympathy, her voice thin. "Michael, look at what you've done to us. We're ruined. How could you?" My voice, however, was calm, even devoid of anger or bitterness. "I wish you well, Mom," I said, my gaze steady, unwavering. "But my path is my own now." The silence after I spoke was profound, a stark reminder of the boundaries I had finally established. A line drawn in the sand that they could not cross. It was the sound of my own freedom echoing louder than any argument, more resonant than any hollow apology. They looked away, defeated, their words silenced by the unyielding strength of my resolve. I felt no triumph, only a quiet, profound peace. My story, I've realized, is not just about financial betrayal or legal battles. It's about the profound, often painful journey of self-liberation. It's about understanding that true family isn't always blood. It's about trust, respect, and unconditional support. It's about the critical importance of setting boundaries, valuing your own worth, and understanding that true healing begins when you choose yourself, even when that choice means walking away from those who are supposed to love you the most. It's about finding your own anchor, your own strength, and building a life that is truly yours. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? What does family truly mean when blood isn't enough? Share your experiences below, and let's define what family truly means.